So here you go. So if it were just investments, how to get 40,000, that what you are spending, your non-discretionary spending. But let's say now you have some side gig. Maybe it's rental, maybe it's a teacher, pension, maybe you're military and you have some money on the side there. Or maybe you want to work a part-time job because you just love what you're doing and you happen to make money doing it. Right? So let's say that you've got some other money coming in, another revenue stream of, let's just call it $10,000 a year. You're not making a ton of money, but it comes out to about $10,000 a year. Well, now you don't need $40,000, you need $30,000, right? Let's get back to the math for a second. You are taking, I gave you the answer, you need $1 million to make 40,000. Let me give you the math so anybody can do it. That 40,000 that you need, if you multiply that by 25, that is how you are going to get that $1 million, right? So multiply what you need by 25 and you get the amount that will create that passive income.
So essentially when you're talking about figuring out what you need to make, what money you need to have for retirement, you're figuring that 25 years is probably a good guess of what retirement will look like for most people. Is that what you're thinking as far as like when you say multiply by 25? Because that for me, that's what comes to my brain. Well, I'm going to live for 25 more years, or that's kind of the reason you multiply by 25. I mean, what's the rationale behind that?
I see where you're going to, but it's actually more of a mathematical formula rather than how long you expect to be in retirement. It's actually a mathematical formula that guarantees the 4%. Because 4 times 25 is 100% of your savings. So you're going to, if you need to take out 4% or half of that return, remember we said 8% is your return. But if you want to take away 4% or half of that, then you take that 4 times the 25, and that's 100% of your savings right there. So it's a mathematical formula to multiply it by 25. It really doesn't have much to do with how many years you're in retirement. If I have enough to live on, if I have that $1 million at age 30, and all I'm going to spend is $40,000 for the rest of my life, $40,000 every year, I could retire tomorrow, and spend 50 years or whatever, 60 years in retirement. So the number of years doesn't go into the formula. It's simply, it's just a formula to determine what creates that 40,000.
Which would make sense that I wouldn't understand it because it's math.
No, but that's the thing about this, Jim, is that a lot of people shy away from finance because it's just not easy to understand. We're not taught this in school, and if you want to learn this, you either have to desire or you have to create that desire from within that I really am interested in this, or you have to get somebody that can maybe show you this or teach you this. But back to that FI, you now have that side gig going that gives you $10,000. That $40,000, now all you need to do is cover $30,000, right? So let's say your investments now only need $30,000. So what creates $30,000? Well, that's easy. Take your $30,000, multiply it by 25, and you get $750,000. So now $750,000 in your retirement account at 8% return will provide you $30,000 every year, and will provide 60, but you're only taking 30, and you will never lower your principal.
See, we've been doing this for a year and a half, and you just taught me something new, Steve. I mean, it's awesome, but in my head, I'd like, 25, but what you're saying makes total sense. 25 times whatever, that's going to be your full percentage. It's going to be your 100%. And so that makes a lot more sense then. from what I had in terms of just an arbitrary number of years that you might live
You're not
after
alone.
you retire.
Trust me, Jim, you are not alone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good. I mean, it just means that this is information that everybody needs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to have a good understanding of all of these details, because I never had anybody explain these things to me, and I'm sure there are tons of other people out there who have never had these things explained to them either.
And again, Jim, we provide the Excel calculators there where you can put in how much do I have right here and how much more do I need. It'll do the math for you. Mm-hmm. You just put in your balances in your 401k or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And we also have the reverse amortization where instead of paying off the debt that we're using those tables, so you could add an extra payment here and an extra payment there and see how much time it takes off. Right. We have the reverse where you're adding money so you can see how long will it take me at 8%. Right. You can put whatever percent in the calculator that we have, right, but we like to use 8%. Mm-hmm. And it'll tell you if you continue to contribute this much every month, at 8%, you will reach this FI number, 750,000 in that case, or 1 million in that case. Mm-hmm. You will reach it on this given month, mm-hmm, on this given year. So
then, getting really into the weeds, then, why the 8%? Why is 8% the significant number we need to hit? Because that's real. I mean, that may be like way into the weeds, but in terms of, I think people would need to understand, why is 8% such a significant number for us to hit?
Yeah, so Jim, there's a couple reasons there. First, it's a safe number. It's a relatively safe number. Historically speaking, to get a return of 8% on your investments, you basically can follow a few rules in index funds or investments in index funds, and it's pretty safe that you're going to reach that. If we were to say 12%, would it reduce the amount of time to get there? Absolutely. But what are the odds that you're going to get that average 12%? Right. Some years you might. Right. Some years you won't. We want to play it safe.
Well, because we even talked about, like, right now, like what last year the market did like 20%. It was crazy. At least, but then we talked about the fact that in the decade of 2000 to 2010, it hardly moved at all. Yeah. You hardly had any growth, any kind of money made, percentages made on there. So when you talk about those 40 years, if you include the last decade, which has been really lucrative, and the decade before, which was not, then you're looking at, 10% or, that's how you average it out with just with those 2 decades.
Yes.
Looking at that.
Yeah. And that lost decade that you referred to between 2000, right after the internet bubble, through 2010, which of course included the real estate bubble as well. Mm-hmm. But on any given time, you could go an extended period of time without making that 8% or even that 4%, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. But over the years, the market has gone up for 3 years for every 1 year that it goes down. Mm-hmm. That's just historical data. Right. Now, will it continue to do that? I don't have a crystal ball that works, so I don't know. Right. But I can tell you that if you use history, and that's all you can use, is history does help you predict the future. Right. If history repeats itself, then yeah, you could expect that for every 4 years or every 3 years that it goes up, 1 year you could expect it to go down. Mm-hmm. Even if that down year is for 4 consecutive years, right, you might have 12 consecutive years like we've seen, right. Well, I guess before COVID, we saw significant number of years where it just did keep going up. Right. But it's just making up for that lost decade. That's all.
Right. So then what, once you're set up, once you've got kind of these things all lined out, you've got your budget, you're working at paying off your debt, you're working at developing these other income streams. So you're on your way to playing the game. All right. So you've got these things set up. Mm-hmm. Then once the board is set up, then it's just how much time does it take you to follow these processes, to follow these strategies, and to get to a place where you're able to step away. And it's different for everybody, right? In terms of what that number looks like and the distance and what happens along the way, what kind of decisions you have to make along the way to really keep your focus on playing the game, mm-hmm, and really not to get from being discouraged? I mean, what are some of the strategies once everything's set up and you're moving forward? What, how do you keep moving and keep the game going?
Yeah, so you used a key word there, strategies, right? Strategies is huge because this is a strategy game. This is not even Monopoly, Yahtzee. We're not rolling dice here. Just so you know, it takes I think it's 4.74% chance that you can get a Yahtzee in 3 rolls. That's long odds. We're not going to play that game. We're not going to roll those dice. We're going to play a game that has multiple strategies and decisions made throughout the game to help you get there faster. Certainly faster than if you just relied on luck, because you may not get there at all if you rely on luck. But 2 things before I get to answer your question. 2 things that we haven't yet touched on setting up the board. You still have to figure out your FAT/FI number. We don't want you to just barely get by in retirement. Granted, that's better than what a lot of Americans are doing right now, is just barely getting by and working a job out of necessity at maybe Walmart or something like that. We don't want that. But even lean FI gets you where you don't have to do that. So we like that. But we want FAT/FI. We want you to give back. We want you to do what you enjoy doing, what you value most in life. So we want to create that FAT/FI number also. And of course, the FAT/FI number is the exact same mathematics. You simply now add, what is it going to cost me to travel? Let's say that's what you do on a daily basis, on a regular basis. What's it going to cost me to hit every Dodger game at every ballpark in the National League and the American League? What's it going to cost me to give back or to create that scholarship for the young ladies that want to go to college but can't? Right? How are you going to give back? But identify how much that's going to cost you on an annual basis. Add that to that $40,000 that you have to have just to survive. And now you've got a total amount or a FAT number, which could be, let's just say it's an additional $40,000. Well, that's $80,000. Multiply that by 25. You know how much you need now.
So the difference in between FAT/FI and lean FI. So obviously we likely hit lean FI first, but the difference then between lean FI and FAT/FI is simply covering all of your expenses versus then covering everything you want to do. I mean, like you looking at your life and all the choices you want to make as far as travel and where you want to go and what you want to do and just enjoying every aspect of your experience. That's where you're talking about, well, now I can't just replace just my bills, but there you're looking on that budget. Now, what does my whole life look like?
Exactly.
What does really the fullness of my life look like? And if I wanted to maintain that full experience of my life that I'm really enjoying right now, then this is the other number that I need to hit. This is what FAT/FI needs to look like. And that's what, you need to figure out, okay, what number do we need to get to through the same math processes, but a different number completely that lets me really just enjoy every aspect of my life. Which, I mean, ultimately, that's where we all want to get. But we can hit lean FI first and then just really kind of pull back on a lot of the things that maybe we were doing to make extra money or income or whatever once we've replaced most of that, but then still doing enough to be able to enjoy the things that we want to do in addition to simply paying all of the bills.
Yes. Simply put, Jim, it's discretionary and non-discretionary. Your $40,000 that you needed to get by is your non-discretionary. You're going to add some discretionary spending. And you're right. When you are finished working and you hit lean FI, if you decide you want to slow down and do something different, your expenses are going to go down slightly. You don't have as much gas requirement, right? Put gas in the car. You don't have to buy the suits or the new car, the new clothes for work. Go out to lunch with your fellow workers. The things that you do when you work. So that's going to go down. But what will go up? Of course. Now you've got FAT/FI. You've got, what do you value most, right? You use the word enjoy. I like to use value. What do you value most in life? Because that's what you should be spending your time and resources doing, what you value most in life. And that does cost some money, without a doubt. But if you've reached FAT/FI, you don't have to worry about money anymore. This game is making money unimportant. That's what this game is. Everybody thinks this is all about centered on money. The ultimate objective in this game is to make money unimportant and make what you value most in life important instead. Yeah. Nobody, when they write down those 3 things, and I do that exercise, as you know, day one, when you enter that gamified
first time
group,
we were there.
Nobody in there put, well, I want to be the wealthiest person as a goal. I want to make X number of dollars. I want to be a millionaire by age so-and-so. Nobody really puts that when you actually dive in to what are your goals, what do you want to accomplish. Those aren't goals. That bumper sticker, I've shared it in the group before, but there's a bumper sticker. He who dies with the most toys is dead. Right. And it's not about money. It's about what did you do in your life? What did you value most in life? And did you live based on those values? Right.
And I'm seeing, like, on LinkedIn particularly, I'm seeing a lot of people talking exactly about that you really can't focus on money, because money will ultimately not bring happiness. You might think that it will, but really all money lets you do is make different choices. It's a tool, lets you make different choices. It doesn't make you happy. I think a lot of people feel like for some reason that it's sort of like a magic, silver bullet, the magic pill. It just, as soon as you have money, all your problems go away. Right. That's not the case at all, because like you said, money amplifies. So as soon as, if you have money and you're not a very good person, that's going to amplify who you are, because you're going to spend that money on things that aren't necessarily good for you and that aren't necessarily good for the people around you. And that's the kind of person that you're going to be. But ultimately, money just lets you make different choices. And if you have more of it, obviously you have more freedom to make different choices in the whole process.
Yeah, and while you're playing the game, Jim, we talked about the budget as your primary tool, especially in that first phase of the game where you're trying to get out of debt. That budget is your tool. We'll get to the second one, the last thing, the second phase of the game, which is building that wealth or building that continuous income stream. And how do you do that? And what tool do you have available? We'll talk about that. Okay. But you're right. Money, when you've reached FI, you've won the game. Now money is your tool. You don't need a budget. I mean, people are going to stick to a budget because that's ingrained in you. By the time you reach FI, maybe it's a lighter budget. Maybe it's not tracked as intensely as you did. But just like that budget made that part of the game efficient. You were efficient with your money because you knew where it was going. You were efficient with your time because you knew how to pay off that debt, and it got you more time. Money, when you've reached FI, it's going to do the same thing. That's your tool to become efficient with your time, because you're using your money efficiently. If I want to pay somebody else to mow my lawn so that I could go on this trip with my wife or go across town and do this, okay, I have the money. I'm becoming more efficient with my time. That's what that money is for. It's not about saving the money. It's about using your time more efficiently. It's all about that. But let's get back to that second phase. There's one more part.
Now, before we start second phase, we've been at this about an hour. Do you want to take a quick break?
Well, we just have the one thing to talk about. It's just one thing to set up the board, and we're done setting up the board.
Okay. All right. Cool.
And that is that in phase 2, building those income streams. You need to have something that's going to track that so you know where it is. We talked about the spreadsheets, but you need that balance sheet now. We talked about the income statement. Balance sheet is another one that companies use all the time to basically tell you the strength of their company. Your company is your home. Your where you live, what you do every day, your household finances. So a balance sheet talks about, on one side of the balance sheet are all of your assets. Everything from that checking account, savings account, 401k, 403b, your traditional IRA, your home, your car. If you were to sell your car, what's it worth? All of your assets. We don't go into small things like how much is the couch worth? How much is the silver? Unless it's really, really valuable, but chances are you're just sitting on a couch. But bottom line is you look at all of your assets, That's on one side. And then on the other side are your liabilities. What do you owe? If you were to liquidate all of your assets, the one side, and you were to use all that money that you liquidated and pay off everything on the liabilities side, you would basically know how much money you had to put in your pocket. That is your net worth. what you want to do is get your net worth up to that dollar amount, and then that's going to help you hit 5. So we are going to use your balance sheet to track your net worth. That's another part of this game that we're going to do. So,
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. We hope you've been enjoying this second conversation in the Game of 5. In our next 2 episodes, Steve will join me via Zoom and share his Game of 5 budget spreadsheet, which has all the necessary bells and whistles to develop a detailed working budget for your household. Steve and I will discuss it at length while he demonstrates all of its features, which will put you in the driver's seat as your family's CFO. That's next time on Game of 5.